Hello, welcome back everyone. So I'll be doing a very quick presentation on what we were supposed to do in class today. So we started by defining JavaScript. So I had to just write this simple code just to show you a little intro of what JavaScript can do. So what the program I wrote about what you're seeing on screen will just generate, uh, different colors. So I'm not doing like the generation. I don't even know what the numbers that are being put into the RGB stuff we did in CSS to always give us like a new color every 2 seconds, a new color every 2 seconds. So back to what JavaScript is. JavaScript is a scripting language, so supported by browsers. So it's not like HTML or CSS. So logic is going to be involved. So what this thing helps us to achieve, that's JavaScript, is that it makes our websites like much more lively, dynamic and interactive. So we can see that, okay, like ordinarily we should have been doing this with like CSS, changing colors for, we can't even do this with CSS, but this changing of color stuff can be done in CSS. But in JavaScript, I can write a script that will generate different whatever colors I need, even colors I don't know about. So with JavaScript code. So enough of that, let's jump right straight into how I was able to do this, then go into all that we did. So I was able to do this with just a few lines of code. We'll get to see this as we progress. Yeah. So before we progress, the first thing I want to introduce to us all is how to include JavaScript into our HTML file. So what we are seeing here is called like an internal JavaScript representation. Like I have the scripts inside my HTML document. So but for the most part, we're going to be making use of an external JavaScript file. So and to do that, we will need to have script source. This means that our JavaScript file should be like outside. So the first file that we looked at was 01 underscore var underscore let underscore const dot js. So that was like the first file we created. So these were some of the things that we did. So I'll just get rid of everything, then I'll save it. So variable declaration. So what's this var, let and const? So these are keywords used to declare variables, and we got like a layman overview of what a variable is. Just a container that holds data. So in the first presentation we did var, let's just say var box, and let's assign shoe into this box. So what we just declared a variable and we gave it a name box, and inside this variable I assigned the value of shoe into it. So but we won't be using the var keyword for the most part, because the var keyword has an issue in JavaScript, or in programming generally. In JavaScript, I'm very sure about this one. When you declare the variable, you don't redeclare again. So I'm not meant to do var box again, because I've already declared this variable up here. But now this var keyword doesn't pay attention to this error. So if I can assign a knife into the box, and when I console.log box, I get knife in my console, which is wrong. All I was meant to do was to reassign knife into this box instead of redeclaring again. These things will be made clear as we progress, so we won't stress on it. So very recently the let keyword took the place of var. So instead of doing, because the let keyword will actually fish out this error of redeclaration. So if I should say let box and I assign a shirt into the box, if I try to do this reassigning again, I have like an error even from here. Say I want to reassign a cup, and when I save this and when I go to my console, I have an issue here, a problem, an uncaught syntax error. So it's telling me box has already been declared. So this is so wrong. This is very wrong. So I can do reassigning. So I just reassign the cup, which is syntactically correct. The next keyword is const, which means constant. So I can say const score and assign the value of 0. So let's leave a comment and let's say constant. So what the constant keyword does is when I use the const keyword to declare a variable, I can't reassign, neither can I redeclare. So that value remains constant, and that's all. The value remains constant. I have a box labeled score, and nothing goes into that box except this value that I've already initially during declaration assigned into the box of score, or into the variable called box of score. So now let me break this thing down. Const, let's leave a comment. Const is const and let are the keywords for variable declaration. Now box and score are variable names. So are the variable names. This box and this score, these are just variable names. So while const and let are the keywords for declaring variables. So that's all for this presentation. Let's now jump into the next one. So welcome back, guys. The next thing that we looked at incompletely was data types. So and the first data type that we saw was the string. So we're going to say a string. So and as simple as it is, a string is just any data that is enclosed under quotes. So I can have, so the first thing, let's just do what we did in the other slide. We're going to declare a variable. So I'll call the variable let name. So and I'm going to assign, let's say, John. So John is a string. John is a string because of these quotation marks that encloses this name here called John. So even if I have, let's say, let number, and I have 4 enclosed inside the quotation mark, this is a string. So and we're able to verify that when we did console.log, we did type of, and we say type of name, just to verify what the type of data this guy here called John is. So we'll do the same for number too. So what's the type of data this other guy? So when I save this and when I check my console, so let's check the console, I don't have anything here because I have not linked the file. So I need to still go back to my HTML, and let's have this duplicated, and we'll get to comment this one. So let's have 02 underscore data types.js. So I'll save this and let's see. So string. So that means anything enclosed under a quotation marks is a string. Whatsoever you have inside this quotation marks is a string. So the next we looked at was numbers or numbers. So let's have this way. So a number is just a number. So example, let's say let value, and let's assign 6 to it. So let's say let age, let's say 70. So that's all with the number data types. So we have other data types too, like the null. which would be properly explained in class, but this just means like nothing. So I could say let, so I've been using let for the most part, so let's use const, and let's say const car. Car is my variable name, and I will say null. If I should console.log car, I get the value of null. Null actually means like nothing is there, but we'll see the importance as we progress. Last but not least, we're going to see symbol, which is like a new data type, primitive data type. So if I should say const, I'll say sign, which is my variable name, then I'll say symbol. Then when I console.log this guy, it's a sign, I get a symbol. So that's it with primitive data types. Let me leave a comment up here, and I will say primitive data types. Now we're going to look at the next set of data types, which are actually called the reference data types. The first we're going to look at is an array. Maybe most of you have heard about this concept called arrays. So an array is basically like a way of storing like a group of data. Say for example, I want to have like a list of items, so I can have them all in an array. So, and to do that, it has its own syntactic structure. So I could just say let collection. So maybe a collection of books. So I have this square bracket. This square bracket actually means this is an array. So I can have whatsoever data inside. I can have strings, numbers, booleans, whatsoever. So let's start with strings. So I could just say hangman, collection of data. I could just say Bill Joe, then I could just say whatsoever. I could just say sky pink. So I have like a collection of strings inside this array, inside this list, a collection of strings inside this list. So that's it. If I actually want to see what I have, all I just have to do is to console.log my collection, and when I check my console, I have like see all that I have inside there. We still have to dive deep into all this stuff. We're just like having an intro. So the next is called an object. So we're seeing different syntaxes. We're seeing like square brackets, we are seeing null, we are seeing strings, we are seeing numbers. We'll get to appreciate them as we progress. So an object is also a way of storing data, but in the case of an object, unlike an array, we have them paired. So, and what do I mean by that? So when I have a particular data inside an object, the data has a name, and for that name a value is assigned onto it. So let's just see it on screen. So I'll just use const, and I'll say const person. Then unlike an array too, an array has like a square bracket, but an object has something called a curly brackets or curly braces. So in this case, maybe let's say I'll use myself as an example. I'll say name, say John. John is a string, and there must be a comma before the next item in an object. I'll say status. I'll say let's say front end. I would say value. I say many stuff. So I could just say okay. So I have like a collection of name value pairs. So every data inside an object is paired. So for every name there's a value, for every name there's a value assigned to it. So, but most importantly, let's pay attention to the structure. It's different from an array. Arrays are not paired. Arrays are more like a list, just a list of so many things. So I can have like a lot of items inside here. I think that should be it. Yeah, we are forgetting one. I think that should be under the primitive data type called booleans. So booleans is just true or false. True or false. So we can't have true and false. So we're going to say boolean. So I could just say let's first let's say valid equals true. Let's say let invalid equals false. So that's it with boolean. It's either true or false, and we'll get to appreciate it as we progress. So just a quick recap. So we've seen strings, we've seen numbers, we've seen null, we've seen symbols. We won't be using symbols for the most part. And we've seen booleans, true or false. True should be 1, false 0. So we've seen reference data types, like data types we could always reference into and get data from. So we've seen arrays, we've seen objects. So as we progress, we'll get to demystify all these concepts and appreciate them the more. Okay, so let's jump to the next one. The next one will be converting from one data type to another. So like converting strings to numbers, booleans to strings, and arrays to strings, and we'll be seeing a lot of new concepts. So to do that, we're going to do 03 underscore type underscore conversion .js. So I'm maintaining like a chronological approach to everything that we'll be doing, just to stay consistent. So the first thing we are going to do is to declare a variable. So I'm going to call this val, and for the first instance we won't be assigning anything to this variable, so we'll just leave it. So when I console.log this guy, so val, so see what we see, the outputs we have nothing because we have not linked the file. So let's jump into index.html and let's link the file up here. So I'll just duplicate this, Control Alt, Shift Alt down, not Control Alt. So I'll do 03 underscore type conversion.js. So I have undefined. Let's go back to 03. So when I did let val and I did console, sorry about the noise guys. So I did let val, I didn't assign anything into val. Now I'm logging the val. So the value I have is called undefined because I didn't really assign anything into this box. This is like having an empty box, so I don't have anything assigned into the box. So we're going to see the beauty of reassigning. Like we talked about the let keyword, that we could always reassign new values into it. So the first thing we're going to do is to convert from number to string. Sorry about the background noise guys. So I want to convert a number to a string. We've seen that when we have, let's say, let's go back to this part. So this stuff is a number, so I want to convert it into a string. So if I should come here and I say val, and val has a value of 10, so I want to convert this value to a string. I will say val should be equal to string, So this is a method that takes in numbers. So it takes in a number and it converts it to string. So sorry about the noise, guys. So we have like this file now that we've already declared here. I'm reassigning a new value into it, and the value I'm reassigning into it is a method that converts numbers to string. So you get the idea. Whatever I pass into this brackets will be converted to a string. So at the initial line we had here, line 4 of var equals 10. If I had showed up here and I said console.log, let's check the type of val, yeah. Then I also copy this same line and I have it underneath here. So when this code is being executed and we're actually taking a line after line, when the JavaScript engine gets here, it sees, okay, val is actually equal to 10. When we check the type of, we'll have a number, right? So but here, this is where the conversion happens, and when we check the type of, we should have something else. So you see, for the first part we have number, that's line 5, so you can see line 5. Then after line 6, after the conversion has happened, we got in line 7, we got the output of string. So what this thing does, this string method does, is it converts numbers to strings. So that's all. So let's go to the next line. Next one we're going to do is, let's keep it consistent, one spacing. So we're going to do boolean to string. So it's just an in-depth explanation of what we did here. So we know that the boolean values are just true and false and nothing else. So now I want to convert this true and see the value of true and also the false too. But in this case, we want to push them and convert them to string. So I could just say no need to do let's stick with our val. So I'll just do string and I'll pass in true. So if I should just have val here and assign the boolean true and check, let's say console.log type of val, then I also do the same thing here, console.log type of val. So at this first instance here, this should be a boolean, but after the conversion this should be a string. So let's see it in our output. So you see at the first instance, let me just comment these ones that we've done up here so it doesn't interfere in any way. So at the first instance, that's in line 11. So we had boolean, but after the conversion it became like a string. So the same thing happens for the false. So if I should have string converts false, we should still have the same. So we have string. So much conversions to do, but let's be fast. I just want to keep the video down to 20 minutes, then we'll continue in class. So the next would be to convert from booleans to numbers. So let's do bool, let's just call it bool to number. So almost the same thing that we did here, but in this case, so we already know what this thing is by default if before the conversion. So it's a boolean when you check the type of. But now when I do val, instead of doing string, if I want to convert something to a number, I use the number method and I pass this guy as an argument. So when I do this stuff, and I console.log val, see what we have. We have 1. So remember that when we were working on the data types.js, I told you guys that true is always 1 in computer science and false 0. So if we should do the same for false, we would have 0. So we have 0 while true is 1. So that's it for this one. So the next thing is to do strings to numbers. So we'll also go back to like the 0 to underscore data types, and let's look at what we did up here when we declared this variable called number, and we assigned this value of 4 as a string to it. This is not a number, so we can't perform like any arithmetic operation with this variable because it is a string. So but now I want to knock it down to becoming a number. So to do that, since we're working with just this variable called val, so I'll say val, and I'll assign a string like number to it. So I'll say 5. There's nothing like string like number, but it's like a string that's a number. So now I want to knock it down to become what it should actually be, a number. So if the same thing I did up there, so I'll say number, then I'll pass in 5. Let's have it this way. So up here it's a string, but down here after this conversion, let's check the type of. So I'll just copy this line, I'll paste this line here, then we'll do the same thing here. So we're having, so let's comment this guy so it doesn't interfere. Comment this one, and let's just have these two guys. Let's have this one commented. So we have string and string, type of okay, yeah, we have value here. So let's save string and number. So before the conversion was a string, after the conversion it became a number. So, and many more to do. So let me just keep quietly gently scroll, and so you get to see everything that we've done. We have this declared here. We started reassigning. All we've been doing basically is reassigning and reassigning. So that's it for this presentation. While we still have like a whole lot of conversions to do, like converting from numbers to floating point numbers, converting from floating point numbers to integers, and then seeing like some math functions and a lot. Let's take our time to go over like this concept type conversion. So I would also send the W3 schools link of data types, type conversion, var, let, and const. If you're interested in this code that we wrote here, don't allow it to bother you. We'll do the same thing and even more in some of the projects that we'll be working on. So do have a wonderful Tuesday, and see you on Wednesday.